My wife Kate always reckons I like getting my head on camera. So the next person you're going to hear from today is me. Look, I do feel very privileged for not only had the opportunity to interview so many wonderful Tasmanian veterans for this series, but also for the many of my own experiences during my time with the Australian Army. To everyone watching this series and has supported us through this process, thank you. One of the most unusual things around family military history wasn't widely spoken about. I did know that my great-great-uncle crawled across to German lines at night on a raid and fell in the trench on top of the Germans and got whacked out over the head by a shovel. So I knew that story because my grandfather told me that and showed the letter from his great-uncle. Then there was an artillery barrage and he managed to escape. The other part though was that on the 8th of March 1944, my great-uncle, also on my mother's side, was out over the English Channel, flew out to Calais. He was attached to the Royal Air Force and he went out over Calais on a photographic run. And so instead of guns, they have cameras, they had super fast Spitfires, and they flew very high. And he would have been going out there to see if the German army was building up at Calais as part of the Allies' deception plan. And so as he came back, it was a really rough day and everyone said, oh, he was shot down. He wasn't. What he did was, his engine went into his Spitfire and he was obviously flying into the wind because you could glide across the English Channel. And he radioed that he was going to have to bail out. And apparently there was some form of triangulation where you hit button A, and then when you're ready to go, you hit button B, and it gives them, your side, a perception of where you are. Mm-hmm. He hit button A, and he went. He didn't hit button B. And so there's no triangulation of where he was, and they went out to look for him, but it was just wild, rough weather. And anyway, Alan passed away. And one day I was sitting there and I was looking at a book. I was 10 years old, and I remember this very clearly, and there was an aircraft crashing into the water, into the English Channel. And Mum came into the room, and I looked at her and I said, Mum, I wonder if that's Uncle Alan's aircraft. And I just remember she froze. And I don't know why I'd know that was about Alan. I didn't know anything about him. And she froze and she said, we don't talk about that, and walked out of the room. And it wasn't until 2014 when we went to the Australian War Memorial and Alan's daughter, my second cousin, came with us. And that was the first time she'd ever seen her father's name on the wall there. And she said, why is it so shiny compared to the rest of the names? I said, that's because I come here often and, rub the names, When you lost someone in a war like that, families, the ripple effect went on for 2-3 generations. Women generally remarried pretty quickly, and then it became, there were stepfathers and all that sort of thing, and it just didn't work. There was a lot of problems, and of course that filtered down through the ages. Because I was so ill, I used to read a lot. And I used to read absolutely everything I could get my hands on. And so I was always reading about military history, and bear in mind was still in the Vietnam era then, and learning about different armies, learning about different equipment, all the way back to the Roman era. And I had a stack of magazines called knowledge magazines that my father collected. And when I'd get to the bottom of that pile, I'd start reading them again and again and again. And my parents thought they'd make us smarter by getting the Encyclopedia Britannicas, the big leather-bound ones that are just, fantastic. And, they'd always think I was studying, and I was never studying. I was just reading encyclopedias just to learn things, and I'd learn that, then I'd go and get that one, and, and there'd be books spread out everywhere, and they just thought I was studying. Come here, Wonders. Come here. So, what I'm going to do, Brett, is I'm just going to introduce you to Maple. And Maple is Kate's little dog. It's a dachshund. It's the worst breed on the planet. But as you can see, they sort of get you into your heart. And I think, like many people, dogs become our lives. If you look around the walls here, despite having 3 kids and 2 grandkids, there are no pictures of them, but there are lots of pictures of dogs and paintings of dogs and all that. So dogs are very, very important. When I get stressed, my golden retriever comes in and just relaxes me. And this one here, she's only young, but she actually thinks she's a golden retriever. So you see a lot of those humorous things, like where she's trying to swim or chase them down through the dog park. But dogs are really, really an advantage to people that are suffering mental stress or simply companionship. So, all up, Brett, including the shorter tasks, I've had over 10 deployments. Iraq was the hardest because our country didn't know what the hell they were doing. Every time I heard the words niche capability, I just shuddered because it meant we couldn't do anything else. We couldn't even get ourselves out. One of the things I learnt, one day I was out at Al Udeid, which was the Air Force base in Qatar, and a big jet flew in, a big passenger jet, like we would say a 777 now. And it pulled up, and the stairs went up, and General Tommy Franks, head of the US push, came down, and he got in a Black Hawk helicopter and flew away. Next day, a Learjet comes in, and it taxis up, stops, 4 black SUVs pull up, and the British head of operations gets out of it and drives off. An hour later, our boss turned up driving himself. And that said to me exactly where we fitted into all that. We were making an effort, but we were like the 3-year-old that's trying to be something to 2 teenage brothers. And yeah, you can go and do that. We would do a convoy into town, into Baghdad. And I remember coming back one day, and we had the 4 commando gun cars at the front and the back, covering bridges as we came up to them, and then covering the bridges as we went past. The Americans didn't do that. And after we came back, the convoy behind us got hit. And they'd been lying up on top of the bridge, but because the commandos with the gun cars were covering the bridge, so you basically like that, then like that, yeah, with 50 calibre machine guns, they didn't put their head over. The convoy behind us was American, and they got hit and people were killed. And so that was one of the fortunes of war, where things can change very, very quickly.
Maple.
Come on, Maple.
Come on.
I just don't like dachshunds. Hey, look there. Look there. Look there. Look famous again, I'll tell you. Go hello. Say hello.